Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome to the Grand Chess Tour Finals in 2019 in London. So after this rapid formats we had a draw between Magnus Carlsen and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. So Maxime won one game with black pieces, Magnus won also one game with the black pieces, and now both of the players had to face this Blitz formats, and if these two Blitz format games also end in a draw, then we will have this Armageddon game, and then the winner of this semi-finals will be revealed and will join Liren, who really crushed today Levon Aronian in the semi-finals, in the finals, and I think it will be a great final whoever faces the great player Liren. So let's see the game. Now the first Blitz game, we have e4 here by Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces, c5 by Maxime, knight on f3, and now d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes on d4, and now knight on f6, knight on c3, and now a6. We have the Najdorf defense, and this game was also played in this classical format in the first round. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave played, I think, a great game in the Najdorf defense against Magnus here. Here Magnus also tried. We have the same move order like in the first round, bishop on g5, and now after e6 we have f3. The most aggressive way, I've explained it in my previous video that I covered, is this move f4, and now Maxime also repeated the move here h6, and here Magnus also played like in the first game the move bishop on e3. We have b5 and now a3, preventing this b4 idea, and now comes knight from b to d7. This is really a classical Najdorf move with the preparation to play something like knight on c5, and now queen on d2. Here we have bishop on b7, and now castling here by Carlsen. Now we have h5, and this is really the same order that in this first game. Now Magnus Carlsen has some troubles. There are several positional problems here for white, although white has of course the better activity. This h5 move that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave plays is a very nice positional blockade here. At least you cannot advance the pawn immediately here with the move g4. You have to prepare something like h3 g4, but if h3 happens, then we have of course h4, which blocks the king side immediately. So I've explained also this particular move order in my previous analyzed game between Magnus and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, but I wanted to also to maybe memorize this very nice move, because black has this very nice pawn center control. I've explained it also in this analyzed game, because here with these two pawns, black has always the flexibility. If of course some pawn breakthrough happens, then we can maybe pass through, and we can also open the center with the move d5. These are the most important strategical elements of this flexible pawn structures here in the center. In the game, Magnus played natural move king on b1, improving the position of the king, and we have now bishop on e7. Now rook on g1. Now Magnus maybe changed a little bit the move order here, because he's trying to launch an attack immediately with g4, but that can only happen if this knight moves. So in the last game Magnus had to prepare this move with the move g3, h3, g4 and similar ideas. In the game Maxime also played the common move in the knight of course rook on c8, here opening the c file for the rook, and now there are always in the Najdorf this tactical threat here on the knight on c3. Here bishop on e2. This is now the new move that Magnus introduced. Now finally, maybe with the preparation to push the pawn on g4, but there are some problems. If you take f takes e4, f takes g4, then you have you don't have anymore your e4 pawn covered. So in the game, knight on b6 played by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave with the preparation to access here on the square c4, which is a great square for the knight and attacking the queen and the bishop. So at least get rid of one of these bishops, so we have still the possibility to maybe open the position, and bishops love of course open position, so that's why getting rid of at least one of these bishops would be a good strategical idea here for black. So in the game, queen on e1 played by Carlsen, preventing this idea, because knight on c4 was the threat. Now we don't have sort of a fork on the queen and the bishop, so that's why getting out of it. And now knight from f to d7, and now Magnus uses this moment, because as I said, we want this knight to go away. Now Magnus finally pushed the pawn here on g4. After h takes g4, here rook takes on g4, and now Of course, white has a very nice attack here on g7, but I hope you realize that black hasn't weakened the pawn structure so much. These 4 pawns are still connected, so you see black has only 2 pawn islands. On the other hand, white has 3 pawn islands, so from an endgame point of view, this could be a strategical advantage here for black, because you have only 2 pawn islands. You don't want to have pawn islands, because pawn islands are basically weaknesses in the position. And here Maxime Vachier-Lagrave played the move bishop on f8, which is a mistake. Better way would have been to continue here with rook on h7. There is now you were never castling this position, but I've explained this pawn structure in the center. When you have this dominant position here with your pawns, you don't have to be scared so much being with this king in the center. In the continuation, Magnus could have played here queen on g3, but now rook on c3. This would be a great tactical game now. This tactical possibility is even suggested by my Stockfish engine that I use here to analyze games. So rook on c3, unbelievable. As I said, most often you can really sacrifice the rook for a knight in neither of the defense games. So this is now a very interesting game. I think would have been if b takes c3, then knight on a4. Here creating an attack against this weakness on c3. Here bishop on e2 would be the continuation, and I don't know, maybe something like queen on c7, or now even g6 is possible, because we have now fixed pawn structure here still, and with the possibility to launch an attack against this weak c3 pawn. So this would be very interesting. So in the game, rook on g4, as I said, bishop on f8 played by Maxime. Not the best of move, because it leaves now the opportunity to Magnus maybe to play something like bishop on g5. Bishop on g5 would be very dangerous, because if you try queen on c7, this would be the main idea to get finally the queen on the c file, because you're of course not going to sacrifice your queen for the knight. So that's why getting the queen on the c file would be very important. And now maybe to play rook on h4, trading off the rooks after maybe something like rook on h4. You see queen on h4, and now we have also some dangerous attacks on the 8th rank, and now this castled king would be very endangered here in the center. So in the game, after rook, Magnus played, instead of this bishop on g5 idea, he played rook on g2, and now Maxime played knight on e5, cementing the knight. But the more important thing is that he wants really to occupy finally with both of these knights this c4 square. Even if this bishop trade offs this knight, then we have a reload sort of situation, then in which we can again place our knight on c4. f4 played by Carlsen, and you see now this knight on c4 idea. We have bishop on c1, and now a queen on c7. Bishop takes on c4, knight takes on c4, and now rook on d3. Very nice move by Magnus, I think, getting use of the g file now. Maybe we can double up rooks here, and also a main idea is to kick away finally this boring knight here on c4 with the move b3. In the game, Maxime played g6, maybe not the best way. Maybe finally a d5 idea would be good here. Somehow crack the position, but still there are some tactical threats on the e file. Maybe bishop on e7 with the preparation sort of, and then finally to play the move d5 or g6 or similar ideas. But I think bishop on e7 is a good move, even if you lose this pawn on b7. Now to finally push the pawn here on d5 would be very interesting with this amazing situation here on the c file. It will be also very dangerous for Magnus. So here g6 played by Maxime, and now b3, kicking away the knight. And now Maxime Vachier-Lagrave played a very interesting idea, bishop on g7. If you take here b takes c4, which I think Magnus should have played, he was probably threatened by this particular line. If you move the rook, then of course the knight is hanging, but the knight is here really not the problem. You can sack the knight. After knight on e6, we have f takes e6, and now rook on g3. You see how important this rook lift was by Magnus Carlsen, and now I think white has a favorable game with this battery on the g file. So Magnus probably didn't see all of this, didn't see this tactics, and he didn't take the knight. Here he played queen on d1, and this was basically a mistake, because we have now queen on a5. And here f5 played by Carlsen, and here Maxime goes back. Maybe knight on a3 immediately is a good idea. Of course we can take, but Now there are some weaknesses here around black's king, so that's why Maxime also went into a calmer line with knight on e5, and now we have b4 by Magnus kicking away the queen, queen on b6, and now f takes g6, and this was Maxime's main idea, to place our knight here on g6, really closing the g file, have another defender around the king, because the king is still in the center and the position gets more and more open. Whenever we trade even more pawns, whenever we trade even more pieces, the position gets much more open, so that's why it's still a dangerous position for the king. And now bishop on e3 played by Carlsen. This is now a great move by Magnus, with the preparation of course to do some tactical threats here on e6. In the game, bishop on h6 was played, and now Magnus had really a great move. I think he should have played knight takes on e6. I think Magnus will have knight on e6 nightmares today. Knight on e6 would have been the best move. Here after f takes e6, you have rook on d6 first, not to take the pardon me, I was wrong about something. If you cannot of course place this discovered attack after bishop on h6, if you play knight on e6, that's the point you have to take with the bishop, and then rook on d6. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Here you have first this rook on d6 idea, then you have to remove the queen somewhere, but now rook on d8 would have been the main tactical possibility here. After rook on d8, queen takes on d8 would be checkmate, so that's why you cannot even take this rook. You have to go with your king on e7, and now queen on d6, very dangerous. King on f6, but now knight on f8, again a check. Here king on g7, and now rook on g6 would lead into a checkmate even. So you see, in this position, as said, Magnus didn't play this move knight on e6, he played knight on d5, knight on b5, attacking the queen. There is still this tactical possibility, but here simply bishop on e3, and now Magnus probably calculated this line, but this line is not so powerful, because here king on e7 can be played, and now we have knight on b7. If knight on c8, then bishop on c8 is perfectly fine, and still we have some problems here I think for white, because white doesn't have any more this dark square bishop, and there are these weaknesses around white's king, so I think with the bishop pair you still can battle here from black's perspective. So that's why Magnus again went into a more calmer line with knight takes on b7, and now we have knight on e5 played by Magnus, pardon me, by Maxime. So here Magnus took rook on e3, but now queen takes on b7, and now knight on a4, we have knight on c4 attacking the rook, and now rook on d3. Here rook on d8, very important move, and now again Magnus makes I think a mistake, because he played knight on c5. Not the best move. It leads now into a game in which black is better. Basically rook takes on d8 is much more better. After rook on d8, queen on e2 is the most important move. Finally get rid of this knight maybe on c4, but in the game Magnus played here after rook on d8 knight on c5, and it leaves now Maxime Vachier-Lagrave a tactical possibility. Here Maxime simply took rook takes on e6, we have knight takes on e6, but now here we have the problem, knight on a3. If you of course take first the queen here, then of course we have here the queen with the check, and it would be game over. So that's why here knight takes on d3, we have knight takes on a3, king on c1, and now queen on e4. Let's count the pawns, 3 pawns on both sides, but Magnus has an endangered king. This pawn is weak, this pawn is weak, and the queen is too defensive. This is the most important problem here for white. The queen is basically out of game. You need at least 2 more moves in order to activate your queen. Rook on f2, and now queen on e3, we have king on d2, and now knight on c4. So there is this better coordination of black's pieces here. King on a2, now we have knight on d6, queen on h5, but now knight on f5, very nice defensive move, closing the f file, which is the most important file for white to attack. Here in the game rook on e2, but now another problem, queen on g1, queen on f3, but now queen on b6. Of course not allowing Magnus to somehow go here on the 7th rank and attack the king. Knight on e5 was played, and now queen on b5. Now this b4 is the main weakness. Of course, you cannot take immediately the b4 because knight on c6, sort of a sneaky idea by Magnus here, but of course Maxime solved that. Here we have c4, and now queen on a4, queen on a3, and now finally queen takes, king takes, but now after f6 we have knight on d3, and this is the problem. We can take now the pawn, and this is now a winning, basically winning endgame for black, because it would be probably a draw if you would have maybe the 3 versus 2 situation of pawns, but these are 2 connected pass pawns, which is a huge strategical advantage in the end game. So that's why after rook on c4 we have knight on c5 here by Magnus, but now knight on d4 attacking the rook, here rook on e4, and now a5. You cannot of course take, it leads again into a simplified line in which we can take, and again we have these 2 connected pass pawns, so that's why here king on a2 played by Magnus, and now rook on b4, knight on d3, but now very nice move. It was sort of a liberating line here by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, because if you take with the knight, then we have also the fork. That's why Magnus took with the rook. Here we have 8 takes b, knight takes b, but now again we go into a favorable endgame for black. The power of the 2 connected pass pawns is too much to handle, I think, here for Magnus. Here f5, king on b2, we have king on f6, king on c2, knight on d4, king on d3. Here Maxime simply pushed forward the pawns and escaping with the knight. The main idea, the main drawish idea here for white is to sacrifice both of this the knight for both of these pawns, so this would be the main tactical possibility, which leads into a draw. In the game, king on g5 was played, knight on e7, we have knight on g6. So here Maxime simply pushed, king on h4, we have knight on e7, not allowing to take this pawn. We have king on f3, knight on g6, knight on d5, but now finally we have e4, kicking away the king, and now the knight can go on a very active square. So as I said, we are not allowing a trade of this knight for 2 pawns, and of course it's a draw. Knight on g4, we have knight on c7, and now very nice move, knight on h2. After king on e3, we have finally knight on f2. So now we can again a little bit dance with our knight around, but now the king comes on this most important square. Now the king can support both of the pawns. So here king on e3 played by Carlsen, but now king on g3, very important move. Here Magnus played the main mistake, knight on d4, but it's lost anyway because now we have f4, this pawn is protected. Here we have king on e2, king on g2, and now f3, very important. Now king on e3, king on g3, now knight on f4, but now very important also to deflect the king from the defense of the knight. Here Magnus took, of course, but now we have f2, and in this position it's basically game over. You cannot prevent this pawn from promotion, although the game was continued a couple of moves later, but this is now a completely winning endgame here for black, because here we have the promotion, and in the next move we have the queen, and here it's a position that you should basically resign. Okay, great game by Maxime. We'll see what will happen in this other game, in this Blitz format, and meanwhile you can watch my other commented chess games from this very nice tournament, and we'll see you soon with some more videos. Chess is the best, of course.